It's time for Saturday with Seniors, where you'll learn firsthand about what life was like in our area years ago. Saturday with Seniors is brought to you by Hemingway General Contractor. Saturday with Seniors airs every Saturday at 10 a.m. here on KC 101. Hemingway General Contractor can sell and install a 95% efficient Luxair furnace, lowering your gas bills. Plus, Luxair has the best warranty around. 10 years on both parts and labor, and Hemingway's includes this awesome warranty with your furnace package for free. Today's guest, we have Howard Hughes here. In 1948, Howard Hughes was born in the backseat of his parents' car on the way to the hospital. He moved to a farm near the canyon and attended the Stony Fork School, the Charleston School, and later the Wellsboro High School. It's time now for the two-part series with Howard Hughes, right here on KC 101, brought to you by Hemingway General Contractors. When it's time for a new furnace, call Alan or Brian at Hemingway's and ask about their Luxair furnaces and their financing options. Sales, installation, and service of all furnaces with parts on hand for repairs. Call or text Hemingway General Contractor at 662-6997. And without further ado, we've got Howard Hughes in our studio. How are you, Howard?
Fine.
Well, where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from just this side of Mansfield, coming up the top of the hill. My dad worked for that farmer there, and I was born on the way to the hospital in the backseat of his car.
In the backseat of his...
Made an awful mess.
I can imagine it make a mess, but what year was that you were born?
1948.
So you're on the way. Well, you're trying to get to the hospital in the car, or your parents trying to? Oh, so
my dad was taking my mom. Yeah, he was taking my mom to the hospital. Yeah.
So that must have saved a little on the hospital bill, or maybe not. So you still went to the hospital
today?
At that point.
It wouldn't. So yeah, I don't know about then.
Do half the work for them, and they still charge you, I guess, huh? So you were born 1948 on a farm. How long had your family been on that farm before you were born? Quite a while.
I think Dad started there probably 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Before I was born, and he only worked there another couple of years. Then he got a better job working for Corning Glass Works in Wellsboro.
The Corning plant in Wellsboro.
Yep.
So where did you first go to school?
I first went to school in Stony Fork.
The old Stony Fork school.
The old Stony Fork school, yes.
Which I think the Mennonite are using now for school, if I remember correctly.
They are.
Yes. What was school like then? We're talking 1953, 4, 5. Do you remember your early...
54, 5.
Got some early memories of school?
All I can remember is just I knew the first grade teacher. Her name was Pauline Clark, and my dad and her husband were good friends. So I knew her. She was more like an Aunt Pauline to me.
Mm-hmm. So you couldn't get away with anything without Dad finding out?
No, I couldn't get away with anything, no.
How big was the school then? Was it one class of each grade? Or?
Yeah, it was one class each grade up till 6. And I went through first, second, and third. And then I went 4th grade in Charleston because we moved to a different house
house or different school
or whatever.
District.
Yeah. And I went to Charleston until I got out of 6th grade, and then went to high school. And I graduated in 1966.
From Wellsboro High School?
From Wellsboro High School, yep. I went to junior high, the old junior high, and went to the prom one time, that was it.
Well, usually people only go once to the prom. I mean,
I'm waiting until 25, and then I'm going back for old time's sake.
I see.
Yeah.
Did you have any favorite teachers in school? Do you remember in high school? I'm sure there's a few people miss it.
There was a lot of them, really. Yeah. That's back when a teacher was a teacher.
I hear that from a lot of people.
Yeah.
The state regulates so much what is taught now, and I'm sure you have some feelings about that. But what do you miss, or what do you think kids are missing out on now that used to be in school 50 years ago when you were there or so?
The respect. It was a 50-50 type of deal. Respect. Teacher respected you if you respected him or her.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, well, you did a lot of sitting in the corners or standing out in the hall or...
Were they still using the paddle back then?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Kids today have no idea that there was paddles in school.
I just felt it. Yeah.
You just felt it as I said that?
Yeah, just as you said that. I can still remember that.
Okay, so that's happened to you more?
Oh, Mr. Jim English, he was a tall man. He was about 6'4", and you used to have to put your hands out in front of you and lean into the locker. And he'd haul back with everything that he had in him and just drive you, and you'd drive right into them lockers. Didn't matter how big you were. everybody did the same.
Some things have changed maybe for the better,
But you
it was
remembered.
debatable because-
You remembered.
Yeah.
You respected
So
him.
what type of terrible thing did you do, can I ask, that gets this paddling? And if you don't want to share, it's okay, but it's been long enough that the story...
There were so many times. I was one of those bad boys, really.
Okay, well...
I mean, not really bad. I'm small, but I used to get in a lot of trouble at school because I knew a pretty good share of them by then, teachers.
Yeah.
Because we'd farmed out to the canyon and up at the county farm. My dad worked up there for 2 years, and we've just been all over the place.
Why did you move so much? Just opportunity, or your parents like to move? Because to me, that seems like a lot of work.
Dad just, I don't know, I guess he couldn't find his niche, until I graduated from high school. Then he found his niche.
Sure. Anything else you remember about high school, or funny stories? You don't have to give names, but things that would make people go, wow, that happened at Wells High School.
I don't remember the boy's name, but he streaked down A-Wing.
Streaked down A-Wing.
Streaked down A-Wing and by the library, and down B-Wing and back up to the bathroom and went in.
Okay.
This was during the changing of classes.
Right through the crowd?
Right through, yep.
Now with cell phones and cameras, well, I don't know what you'd end up with.
They didn't have them back then.
No. Probably pretty good for your case that they weren't around then, because
was.
the evidence doesn't exist so much.
And then after high school, I just hung around Wellsboro until January, and I had enlisted in the Marine Corps. And I went to Parris Island, South Carolina, for 3 months of infantry training or Marine training. And then I went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, a part of it which is Camp Geiger, which any of you Marines out there will remember. It was a beautiful place. Yeah, sunny palm trees and all, right, guys? Yeah. Yeah, it was
You're selling it.
It was a hellhole from hell. But it was fun, I learned. And then I was on extension month and a half there and went to machine gun school.
You know how many people would love to go to that entire
I've missed that. I really missed that.
You did protect your hearing during machine gun school, I hope.
What's that? I wear hearing aids now. But a lot of that was from mortar attacks and stuff in Vietnam when I was there. But after Camp Geiger, I went to Camp Pendleton, California, and did our jungle warfare training out there, and our escape and evasion training was out there. And it was odd to me because it's all right in the desert. It's just sand.
Sure.
And it was odd, but we made the escape route that night, and just luckily I had gone through a compass course in machine gun training just a couple of weeks before that, so I remembered it really great. And we were the first ones to come out, and we had breakfast.
You won breakfast.
Yeah.
Surprise.
We had one breakfast, and it surprised even the instructors. They didn't think anybody'd be there that quick. And that was fun. But then I got to Vietnam.
So you're deployed to sent to Vietnam.
Deployed to Vietnam, and we stopped in Guam, and it's very small, and refueled, and took off. And it wasn't long, and we landed in Da Nang, and I got out of that, got into a helicopter, and sat there about 15 minutes, and then they said, no, come on, we're going into a C-130. So I got into a C-130, and we went to...
For those that don't know, that's the plane that's big enough to drive a semi-tractor trailer into.
Yeah, you could drive a tank in it, a couple tanks, but it held about 85 men in all our gear. And we flew from there to Khe Sanh and landed at Khe Sanh while under mortar attack. And the plane was lurching all over, and come to find out after we had landed, the guy was veering to get away from the crater holes that the mortars were leaving. So, and he was doing this at probably, 80 mile an hour or more.
Yeah.
So that plane held together very well. So we got off and went in a couple of bunkers and waited till a mortar attack was over. Then come out, and they loaded us on helicopters and flew us out to Hill 861. And we were what they call a mop-up team going in after Hill 861 had been overrun, and the Army had held it.
Yeah.
And we circled the whole bottom of the hill, and we moved up, and the whole hill was circled, and we moved up until we got to the top. And then the boys down at the bottom of that side of the mountain came up over, and we took back the hill.
Wow.
And that was
Yeah.
our main base was at Quezon, and I was assigned to Hill 861 because we were only like 3/4 of a mile from a DMZ, and we could see any traffic. Elephants are big,
Yeah.
and you can see them a long ways. But any kind of movement of force,
Yeah.
we could see.
Surveillance was so different then than it is now, and what we have. So, I mean,
Yes.
you're relying on your eyes more than
More
visually
so, yes.
than
They had-
radar or whatever else.
They had binoculars and mounted scopes, that were bigger
Yeah.
than what a rifle would need, but it was a scope, actually. And we could watch the trail from there. But we were out on patrol every day, and you never knew what was coming. One day you'd get maybe a couple of 100 meters from the gate and walk right into a booby trap or,
Yeah.
an ambush, or you'd see them before they'd see you, and then you'd lucked out. So then you started chasing. We just had a good time. I mean,
I guess there's different ways to look at it. I'm sure
Yeah.
it was scary times
yeah,
too.
they were scary, but
How
they
often
were
did you call home and let your family know you're okay, or were you writing letters at this point? Was the
just letters.
so your family would find out days later that you were okay, and then you'd find out days later.
Yeah, they'd
that-
hear about it that night on
Yeah.
the news, that such and such a company was up here and they got into it and so many were killed and wounded. And,
Yeah.
when I come back, my mom says, thank God. Couldn't stand it anymore. I was ready to pull all my hair out.
So how long were you gone from home?
19 months.
Quite a long time at that age.
Yeah, 19 months. From
So do you
the time
remember
I
when you
left
first got
Paulsboro.
back home and saw your family again?
That was a lot of fun, yeah. But landing out in California, we landed in El Toro, and a lot of hippies and I
Well,
don't
coming
know.
back to a country that didn't 100% support the war.
Yeah, they called us baby killers and and things
Yeah.
like that. And to tell you the truth, over there, you don't know who you're shooting.
Yeah, you were in the military. It was your
You get
job,
into an
and
ambush.
you were doing. Yeah,
You get into an ambush.
Yeah.
You're just protecting yourself. You know which area it's coming from, but they could have people there and you don't know it.
Wow. So let me go back to your high school days a little bit here. You
Okay.
lived in Wellsboro. What did you do for fun in Wellsboro? Did you go? Do you remember the early movies you went to? Did
We
you have
used-
restaurants, hangout places? What was life like in Wellsboro for you in the high school days?
We used to play football on the green.
On the green.
Yeah.
There was the
Down
fountain
here.
was there then. You just played around the fountain and
Yeah,
the trees and
yeah.
whatever else was there.
Yeah. There could be 2 or 3 games going at the same time.
Huh. I heard of people swimming in Wink and Blink in a Nod fountain.
Yeah,
but
we did that too after dark,
Yeah, I heard the same
Yeah.
stories about After Dark. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's why there's a
Yeah.
fence around it.
There weren't as many officers of the law back when I graduated in '66. And you'd just get one of your friends on one end of town or another and make a little disturbance, spin the wheels and
Yep.
squeal them a little bit. Cop would be down there so you could do anything you want on the other end of town. But they knew that too, so they had to weigh the
Little
difference.
game of cat and mouse
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
Was cruising the town popular then too? Just kind of doing a loop.
Yeah.
I've heard in the '60s.
I was on a
Wellsboro-
farm
Yeah.
and we had a Ford tractor and I cruised Main Street every Friday and Saturday night.
with the tractor.
Yep.
Just come down. Nobody
I'd have
bother you.
a couple people sitting on each fender, one standing on the drawbar. We'd just be talking away, hollering at people, having a good time.
Sounds like a more simpler time back then.
It was.
That was actually with the gas lights even here then, because they were put in the early '60s, late '50s, I want to say. So I think they were just regular street lamps, and the boulevard
I think
was
they
different
were
then.
just street lamps.
So just regular street lamps. And what else do you remember doing? Where were some of the other things?
Bliss Hardware used to sell little mini bikes, and you could get on one and ride all over town to try it out and bring it back and say, well, I'll have to talk to my parents and see
That's
if
where
I can.
Stained Glass Reflections is now on the corner. That was the
Yeah.
hardware store there.
Yes.
And they actually let you just take it. I mean, CS Sports, the bike shops, is a couple doors down. You can take the bicycle out for a test drive.
Well, he knew all of us. He knew all of us kids, and he was a nice gentleman. He was a nice gentleman for someone who owned a store.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of things like that. We'd go up on top of the Arcadia and throw water balloons and convertibles.
How'd you get on top of the Arcadia? Maybe we shouldn't say this if they're still away, but What'd you get to the trap door? How'd you get up?
We had a friend of a friend, you
I
know
see,
what I'm
okay.
saying? Yeah. But,
So you got yourself into some very mild mischief. Nothing, no bank robberies. It doesn't sound
No, nothing like that. We did leave a couple cars flat tires. We just left the air out. We didn't poke holes or nothing, and we just left the air out. But
So talking about cars, your first car, what was it? What it cost you? Do you remember?
I do. I bought it from Bob Dean. Him and I were school buddies. I mean, we were in the same class and everything. And he had a 39 Chevrolet Coach with airport limousine doors, and he wanted $35. And I bought that.
A
What a blast.
1939.
My word. It did not have shocks. It had knee calipers like on the front. When you'd hit a crack in the road, it would bob. The faster you went, the faster it bobbed.
And how many people could you put in it legally, and how many could you put in it in reality?
Back then, the drive-in out at the Y was open, and they had dollar nights. And
That was $1 per car or per person?
$1 per car. And we had 16 in there.
So everyone had to put in 7 cents or whatever to make this.
It was only $1 a load, $1 a car.
Yeah, divided by 16, you're down to about 7 cents a person.
Once you got there, you'd open the doors and people just got out.
Like the clown car just fell out the sides and everything else.
Really. But we had so much fun back then.
The Y Drive-In was closed before I moved here, but was that a popular place to go?
It was. On weekends, yes. It was a fun place to go because you could meet everybody there. If you parked in the back rows, you know.
As you got further from the screen, it got more fun.
Right.
It was like the cheap seats at the baseball game. That's where the rowdy people were.
Right. We had tailgate parties before they became popular, you know.
That's neat. It's unfortunate the drive-in movie theaters, so many of them went away. I think that would have been
I don't know.
During the pandemic, they would have been super popular. You got to go all the way down to Lock Haven or South Williamsport, Elmira now. There's, unfortunately, 2/3 of them in this country have closed.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Looks like we're going to have to wrap up part 1. We're running out of time, but I can't wait to get together with you next week. There's so many more things I want to ask you and talk with you about here on part 2 next Saturday at 10 a.m. here on KC101. It's all been brought to you by Hemingway General Contractor. Give Alan or Brian a call at Hemingway's and ask about their Luxair furnaces and the financing options available. Sales, installation, and service of all furnaces with parts on hand for quick repairs. Call or text Hemingway General Contractors at 662-6997. That's 662